just here. We can notice here in terms of our external surroundings. Could look if you want to, look around. This is physical space. These people. Wouldn't it be strange if you were the only one here? Wouldn't it be different? Here, seated in this place, this cushion, this bench, this floor, which happily supports you. The bench doesn't ask who you are or what you wore or what kind of day you've had. And there's this body. Resting on this bench or floor. This body too is just kind of chugging along, keeping you alive. All the different activities that are happening, that are cooperating together. Pretty amazing when you think about it. And you can feel some of them. You might be able to feel the heart beating, or the pulse. You can notice hearing the sound of my voice, hearing the little dingle of a phone. Just all happening all by itself. Noticing this body keeping itself a even temperature, maybe a little warm, maybe a little cool. All of these activities just happening. Noticing the breath. Just happening. So this is the meditation part of meditation, bringing awareness to the experience of the present moment, the direct experience of the present moment. And very often we use the breath as an anchor for that. I'm going to shift for a bit, though, to a contemplation. That will offer us, I hope, a bit of nourishment. So, as much as possible, as you are here in the present, invite into your mind something you've done or said, maybe today, maybe a long time ago, that you feel was a wholesome, kind, useful, compassionate, or good thing. Let yourself be surprised too. Don't work too hard at it. Just let allow to come into your mind something that you have done or said that was wholesome, good, useful, or kind. Doesn't have to be huge. Doesn't have to be huge. I washed the dishes today. Maybe it's a time when you were generous or grateful or caring, or you contributed somehow to someone's well-being. And again, don't require it to be solving world peace, that big. And if something comes to mind, allow yourself to know in the body the ease or comfort or happiness that may come from that recollection. See if you can notice in the body any quality of gladness. Find it in the body. And remember that the Buddha invites us to linger with these qualities of goodness, gladness. Again, letting yourself let go of any requirement about it, any analysis or expectation or need for it to be a certain size or a certain quality. Might you linger in a quality of gladness about something you have done or said that was wholesome, kind, or good? If nothing in particular should come to mind, something that happens, sometimes that happens. See if you might find some quality that you like about yourself. Maybe you're a good bowler. uh, Or you take care of your cat well. Some quality of goodness in your own being, your own existence on this planet. Some way, however small, that you contribute to goodness on this planet. Maybe you grow great spinach. And once again, just linger in the feeling quality of goodness or gladness. And again, occasionally it happens that we can't connect with goodness. So I just want to note that if that should happen, if nothing comes to mind, or even the opposite, sometimes even the opposite comes to mind, we judge ourselves. Allow yourself to reflect on the wish for gladness, the wish for goodness that you certainly experience, or you would not be here tonight. And allow yourself to know the goodness of that, the turning toward the wholesome, the turning toward the wholesome. And I'll be quiet now and allow yourself to just choose what you'd like to be with during the rest of the meditation period. You might want to simply linger in whatever quality of goodness you find. Breathing it in, feeling it, letting it expand if it wants to. Whatever you notice. The Buddha invites us to recollect our goodness. Or you might prefer to simply shift back to some way that the body is doing its thing, really functioning and keeping you going, like the breath or hearing. And you might want to rest your awareness there. So let yourself do whatever you'd like, whatever would bring ease to this body-mind tonight. May all sentient beings, boundless as the sky, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May we all rest in equanimity, free from greed, free from ill will, free from deluded mind states. May all beings in every direction be happy. Before we move to the little social moments, I have a question for you. In the description that was published for tonight, it said something about, I guess, I don't even have it here. It's about instructions on not following instructions, part 2. We did part 1 a couple weeks ago, and this is sort of going a little bit more into the weeds on that one. And then I thought, over the weekend, I was thinking about how fried we probably all are. And I wondered if that was maybe the best use of our time together. So, and perhaps I was simply projecting my own challenges, which had to do with the mind kind of running off into ruminations and thinking. And so then I put together some thoughts about working with, obsessive thinking and rumination and plans and fears and all that. That was Sunday. And then, and then I wondered if it maybe would be best to just respond to questions tonight. I know there have been some questions that have come up recently that we haven't had much time to kind of dig into too deeply. Somebody asked, did the Buddha have difficult emotions? Somebody asked a question quite some time ago about evil. And so I just wondered if maybe that would be the best use of our time. So those are your options. You don't have to even respond. If you don't have an opinion, then I'll make something up. But does anybody have a thought about what you'd like to do, how the rest of the evening might unfold? Anybody have a strong opinion or wish or? No? Dave?
I've got a question.
Questions?
Second that.
Second that? Dina? You mean for questions? Oh, so you're voting for questions too? Okay. All right. The people who speak first get it? All right. And the trees don't have an opinion yet? Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do. And probably we'll touch on some of the other, but we'll just kind of talk together about some of the questions that have come up. Not that I know all the answers. But that we can maybe inquire a little bit more deeply anyway into some of the things that might be coming up for you. I know these are kind of challenging days. I know they are for me. Okay, so it's 20 minutes to 8. The clocks are always wrong and I have trouble with math. And so 10 minutes to 8, we will come back. In the meantime, enjoy your cookies. And one another. Okay. I thought I would start with this quote from a spiritual teacher who used to tell his students that the reward they would receive for learning to solve their problems, the reward for learning to solve your problems would be even bigger problems to solve. And that the reward for learning to digest their own suffering would be to learn to digest the suffering of the world. Now, anybody wants to leave right now? It's like what did Carl Jung say, that the challenge is to bring the unconscious into consciousness. And it's something like, and that process is distasteful, so practically nobody does it. So anyway. All right, so you wanted to inquire together. So here we are, just a group of people with very sincere hearts, or you wouldn't be here, with a sense of what might be wholesome and what might not, or you wouldn't be here. Even if you can't even quite articulate it, notice that there is some quality of wisdom in your being. Huh? You recognize that? So here we are together. One of the suttas that I really like is a sutta to Maggia, where Maggia was the Buddha's attendant. And he was out walking one day and he found this really cool, lovely mango grove. And as many of us would, he thought, I'd really like to just go and hang out there and meditate, and I would have a really cool and lovely spiritual practice. So he went back to the Buddha and asked the Buddha, can I be relieved from being your attendant and go and just meditate in the mango grove? And the Buddha said, no, I really need an attendant. Anyway, that went on for 3 times. Finally, the Buddha said, sure, go ahead. So Maggia went out into the mango grove and sat down to meditate, at which point he was consumed by thoughts of greed, hatred, ill will, and ignorance. And so he was just like, and the Buddha said, yeah. He went back to the Buddha. He says, this happened. He said, yeah, so it's just your practice to work with that. And then he gave him 5 different suggestions for how to work with it. We'll probably touch on some of them tonight. And one of them, the first one, and I was always puzzled about why is this the first one? He said, wholesome friends, good friends, good community. And it's like, why is that the first one? And it's sort of like when you nod and you say, what wisdom feels like, that together we kind of know what wisdom and wholesomeness feels like. And when I get lost, you help me. Because mercifully, we are not all lost at the same moment and in the same way. So we help each other. So this discussion isn't like, oh, Sharon's going to answer all these questions, so much as let us inquire together about the things that are frying us a little bit or a lot, and what you struggle with in terms of how to manage it. And what we're doing is trying to bring the teachings out of sometimes the teachings can be kind of abstract, even in my own mind, where I'm like, I've taught this stuff. Somebody just asked me, I think for more than 30 years, 35 years, I've taught this stuff. And then I'll see, oh, this is an abstraction. And when it comes to some actual experience, I'm clueless. So what we're really trying to do with our questions really is drop out of the abstractions of universal loving kindness to say, all right, what does this look like? What does this feel like? How do I work with it here with this? Okay, so little speech on my part. See, I can't help myself. Here we are. All right, question, what do you want? Who's got a question? David, you had a question? Yeah.
Do I get a microphone?
You get a microphone. You do get a microphone. I'm going to give it to you and then ask you to pass it to whoever's next. Yeah, you have to really eat it. No.
Green light's on. You hear me?
There you go. Yay. Okay.
So something the Buddha did not have to face is the end of nature as we know it. Like in his time, it was unfathomable what the mountains would, all the rivers would be polluted and all the forests would be cut down and we'd be all consuming microplastics.
Mm-hmm.
So I know all things are temporary, but there's been throughout history the sense of like nature being bigger than us and sort of this place to retreat to for serenity.
Right.
And, even here in Central Virginia, those invasive species are really just taking over and killing forests and wiping things out left and right. It's hard for me to, like I used to love to retreat to nature for serenity, like, oh, okay, yeah. And now I'm seeing, it just feels like there's this creeping.
There's what?
There's a creeping destruction and decay and I feel like a lot of the anxiety in the world right now is relating to either climate change or resource depletion, and people maybe haven't put their finger on it. They don't really understand why they're all so anxious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How could you see the Buddha responding to that type of a problem?
Of course, I don't know. But a couple thoughts occur to me. Probably the first is that it is indeed hugely painful. I mean, we could take any one of the questions that we have. It is indeed hugely painful. It is indeed hugely painful. That the Buddha knew a lot about. He knew a lot about the experience of painful things. The story that I like to remember is this story of where he tried to stop a war, where his own, be like saying, the war is Richmond against Charlottesville, and I live in Charlottesville, it's my community. And so, I tried to stop the war. And he tried and tried and tried and failed, such that Richmond came in and killed every living being in Charlottesville, in his home community. He knew what it was like to experience profound pain. Somebody asked last week if he had difficult emotions, or a few weeks ago, if he had difficult emotions. I was just looking and I didn't bring the quote because I love the language of the sutta, but it talks about the pain he experienced as he was dying. He had dysentery and died of dysentery and was in, if anybody's ever had like really bad dysentery, which is to say really bad GI stuff going on, extremely painful. And it talks about him patiently enduring the pain of dying. I can't remember the words. I wish I could remember the words. So he knew things that were very difficult. He did not, you're right, that, there wasn't at that point a sense that, the planet was going to die. That's true. That this home was going to die. But he knew about things that were difficult. And he practiced with two things. One, allowing himself to experience the pain, but to not be immobilized by it, to not be shut down in paralysis or shut down in hyperreactivity that was simply basically contributing to more pain. And all of us know that experience, right? When you read something in the newspaper and you'd like to just, and I'll say it differently, and you wish somebody not well. You know that feeling where you just want something bad to happen? So we know how that is. To want to respond to pain by adding more pain. We know how that is. So the Buddha's instruction would be to notice the experience of pain, to not get too caught in the mental aspect of it. So for example, I won't say this is you, I will just take myself. If I think about the planet and then I think about what's going to happen and it's like how the forests are going to go and it's like, if I'm living in my brain about it, there's a certain kind of distress. If I go out to visit my tree in Ivy Creek, it's a different experience. Whereas she and I can have a little conversation about it. And it is true that sooner or later she will die. Sooner or later, I will die. Hopefully I will die and then my little ashes or whatever will go feed her. But anyway, that's another story. So it is true, but in the meantime, she offers some comfort. So I would propose there the challenge is, it is true that is painful. The challenge is, can I be with my own experience thoroughly enough and kindly enough that I don't get paralyzed and I can do something that is useful, including if just that something is useful is instead of, reading the Midas touch yet again, or listening to the Midas touch yet again, or whatever, something that's kind of inflammatory, that I go for a walk and visit my tree. Because that will help calm my own nervous system in a way that then allows me to see what is mine to do. And I do not have control, nor did the Buddha, over whether or not there was a war. Is it? Yeah. No.
You're getting there. I mean, that's still working.
No.
Well, I can talk really loud anyway.
All right, and Zoom isn't on, so as long as we hear here. Oh, that's true. The recording is on. Green light on?
So now?
There you go.
Okay. Yes, I guess the thought of watching one's own village and people get wiped out was super traumatic. And was there anything specific was there a sutta or a teaching that came out of that particularly?
All of the teachings come out of that. The teachings have to do with, and when we get back to instructions on not following instructions, we'll follow that a little bit. But basically, the instruction is to start where you are. And if where you are is despair, if where you are is murderous rage, if where you are is anxiety and you can't sleep in the middle of the night, if where you are, is frozen and shut down and I can't deal with it, then you start with that and then you bring the quality of presence to that with the same exact practice, which is ouch. Starts with ouch. And the problem is that we don't want to feel an ouch. We don't want to feel those ouches. And you could watch this yourself. We just taught a retreat, an insight dialogue retreat. And in the retreat, people are speaking to one another, and the instruction is always, as you listen, your job is to simply listen. You don't have to fix anything. And you know what? People don't do that because it is difficult to just hear experience, whether it's whether it's yours or yours or yours or yours or my own, and be simply with that. What happens, you can watch this yourself. If you think about, that person, whoever the person is, we all have a person, who's difficult. And you think about that person, and I say, okay, actually, do it. All right, think about a person who's difficult. If you have trouble, I'll give you some. Okay. Do you notice that it's hard to be with the unpleasantness, and that you start to talk to yourself about that person or about yourself? Furthermore, if they did this, and what if, and why don't they, and they should, and I should, and we should, and that almost immediately we start into the narrative about it, because it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to simply be with our experience. So I'm going to propose the challenge there is you read that and you can kind of notice the anxiety, but you could also perhaps notice that the mind wants to run with it. It's like Lola out in the woods, it's like the mind wants to run with it. And then the mind starts getting it going. And then we're kind of off to the races, but we're not present with our experience. And then we think up something to do. Well, next time I see that person, I'm going to, or I'm going to write a letter, or I'm going to do this. We think up something to do, which may or may not be mine to do, and it may or may not be wholesome. Murdering people, Buddha advises against it. So the challenge really is something scared me. I'm going to make that up, about the destruction of the planet. Yeah, fair enough? Can I be with the fear? As long as it's not overwhelming, I could talk about that separately. Let's imagine that it's not overwhelming, but that it's being fed by thought. Could I not go into the thought? Could I be with the anxiety about it and find a way where this too can be a path to awakening? Okay, now that sounds like a leap, huh? But that's the practice. May this too be a path to awakening. I've spent the last 4 days writing a letter on behalf of helping the clergy collective write a letter on behalf of all of us about the possibility of the Insurrection Act. Invoking the insurrection, so may this too be, for me, a cause and it turned out to be mine to do. But not if then I am simply adding to the hostility in the world. Do I have the capacity to do this in a way that is clear, strong, wholesome, and that doesn't completely destroy my own sense of well-being? How's that?
Good.
All right. I want to talk about evil because you go in the direction. I know somebody else during the break asked me about that, and it's come up before. I'm going to propose trying to think whether or not to tell a story. All of us, no, I'm not going to start there. Evil, I will propose, is profound unconsciousness, a profound unwillingness to be with life as it is. Profound unwillingness. And it can start very, very, for all of us, it starts very, very young. I mean, who among us doesn't have a story about when we were 4? You know, about that terrible thing that happened when you were 4 or 6 or 12 or whatever. You know, who doesn't have a story like that? That we all have experiences, and they tend to, depending on the age of that experience, they tend to then program our brains to then see that, or function with that kind of understanding of the world. Men are like this. Women are like that. Sex is this. Sex is that. Power is this. You know, power is that. Sweets are good. Sweets are not good. You know, whatever the story is, that we then kind of function as though it were real. Now, hopefully, as we grow, we kind of go, maybe that's not true. Or maybe it's not as true as I thought it was. Or, better yet, this is hurting me. Or even better yet, this is hurting somebody I care about. You know, I tease about the forks. I do not actually fight with my husband about forks. I do fight with him about other things, but not forks. But if I then become obsessed with where the forks go, and it becomes a matter of life or death, because, you know, forks are important to me, I think, you know, then I'm like veering into a place of my own delusion, my own confusion. So evil, I will propose, is profound unconsciousness that probably starts really, really, really young, under extreme duress, and then with someone who chooses actively and consciously and unconsciously and indirectly to refuse to look at it. To refuse to notice that when I am fighting with my husband about forks, this is mine. It is not about forks. And if I refuse to notice that and take myself on about it, that is a little evil. Now, if I choose to, like in the Buddhist time, if I choose to annihilate Richmond because that's a bigger evil. But evil is unconsciousness. I'll say evil is unconsciousness, and big evil, capital E, is about profound unconsciousness. So what we do with that is we see it for what it is. We don't say, "Oh, poor baby," you know, but we see it, and we do what we can to not add to it. For starters, hatred never ceases by hatred. This is an ancient and eternal law in every spiritual tradition. So not add to it. And at the same time, what can we do, hopefully, to make it better? I heard a wonderful quote right after the election, where somebody said they were talking about that people, after they had voted for President Trump, were saying, "Oh, gee, I didn't realize he was lying." That somebody said, "Yes, we all were lied to. Now how can we work together to fix it?" Which is a different thing than sitting around and ragging about lies. So that we make connections, we bring loving kindness where we can. And sometimes where we can is we have to really slow down and bring it to ourselves first. Because if we have experienced in our own history with the experience of this kind of abuse, then it's going to be way harder for us to calm ourselves so that we can offer something. So it has to start. Then it has to start here. I don't know if that makes any sense. I see a couple nods. Okay. Yeah, Claudia, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. And I wrote some of it down on the little envelope here. But can you clarify a little bit about, or just say a little bit more about evil is a profound unconsciousness. And I think you said of the world as it is, or it's the unconsciousness of one's effect on others, or
Okay.
of what?
This is where language, I think, gets a little tricky. It's a profound unconsciousness of what works. Hatred never ceases by hatred. By love alone is hatred healed. Every spiritual tradition, every faith tradition speaks of, Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. So that, and then, some of our teachers speak from a non-dual perspective, where they're speaking of spacious awareness and relaxing into sort of infinite space, love, wholesome kindness. So to violate that is a little evil, depending on. Does that make sense? So hatred never. So love one another as I have loved you. Carole King sings that song, "Only love is real. Only love is real. Everything else is illusion." And I will propose, and we've proposed this before, we propose it in our retreats sometimes, that every one of you, I could tell you stories, my own, but every one of you has had an experience where you connected with the truth of that only love is real. Sometimes they happen very, very quickly. And so we don't even notice, we don't even remember that it happened. But every one of you has had an experience where you have known it to be true, that only love is real. Sometimes it happens at birth, at somebody's birth. Sometimes it happens at somebody's death. Sometimes it happens in moments where we absolutely least expect it. I had it happen with a beggar in really unpleasant, I wrote about it on my blog, a really unpleasant, difficult beggar in Toulouse. Just wandering around Toulouse. I had a moment of enlightenment with this beggar. And we've all had those moments. So that what we're inviting in our spiritual practice isn't just, oh, nothing bad is going to happen. I'm not going to experience pain. It's not like that. You can quit now if that's your goal. It's not like that. I'm going to die. Really. So are you. Really. And it's not going to be particularly pleasant. It's how life is on this planet. It just is how life is on this planet. I compare it to giraffes. It's like, why are there giraffes? It's just how life is. It's just how it happened. So how life is on this planet is that things are painful. So our spiritual practice isn't going to rescue us from things that are painful. It's going to rescue us from believing that our happiness depends on things not being painful. And that evil is a determination that I can make life work out the way I want it to, and I am not going to experience pain, and furthermore, I'm going to give it to you instead. That's evil. So, okay, fine. But then if we start out with, we're going to solve the problem of evil as my agenda for Tuesday morning, that's too big. That's too big. How about if I solve the problem of my obsession with forks? How about if I work on that one? And just add that quality to the quality of the world. You've heard me speak about the butterfly effect, and I just love this story. But and I have that in my notes, but I don't have the exact data. Conrad Lorenz, who is a meteorologist, was in a hurry one day, and he plugged a number into an equation that was something like 0.05278. And the actual number was something like 0.052783682. And it came out with a completely different weather forecast. That little bit of difference made a completely different weather forecast. And I'm going to propose that my working with my obsession with forks. You understand that's a metaphor, right? My working with my obsession with forks is my butterfly contribution to the wholesomeness and the peace of the world. So that we do what we can where we can, and we don't get upset, we don't get preoccupied with big questions that I have no capacity to address. I've really been so impressed with that with the news these days. It's like, well, I should do something about that, and I should do something about this, and I should do something about this. And I just keep coming back to, okay, what's mine? What's mine to do? I can't do anything about that. So I'm not going to even read about it. I'm not even going to fill my mind with stuff. Okay, more questions. Other? Oh, just one other thought. So in answer to, did the Buddha have difficult emotions? The Buddha had painful feelings. And he had emotions that were unpleasant. He did not feed them, and he did not pursue them, and they didn't last long because he didn't hang on to them. Is what I think it might be true. Okay. Others? Other questions? I got time for one more, maybe. Yeah. Here, give it some.
Correct. That I've been struggling with is, what is truth? I mean, we're hearing the sun's up. Basically, right now, and it's not. And so summertime,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so.
Are you here tonight? Is that true? When you did the meditation tonight, you don't even have to answer this one because a possible answer is yes, possible answer is no. Were you able to connect with some quality of goodness in yourself? Is that true? Is it true that you were not able to do that? Notice that that is true. You know that. Is it possible to be kind with yourself about not being able to do that? There you go. Huh? That you know what's true. Now, what's true in this moment may not be true tonight at 11:30. But it was true when you did that. Okay. When I first did you've heard me say, when I first did the loving kindness practice, what erupted was profound, and I do mean profound and murderous hatred. That was my loving kindness practice. So, how to bring loving kindness practice to the experience of murderous hatred. That was what was true. So bringing our practice to what we know to be true. Was it Rilke has that quote? He says, "Consider yourself right every time with whatever you're experiencing. If you are wrong, after all, the natural growth of your life will bring you to new insights." And it's true. I think that's the Buddhist teaching as well. So bring the practice to bear to what's true, as opposed to me having the experience of murderous rage and then saying, "Oh, I'm at a meditation retreat. Now I can go kill people. How cool is that?" That would not be a wholesome use of that. I have now permission to go kill people. First of all, it's not going to make me happy. And secondly, it's not going to make anybody else happy. So that's the hard part. That's the hard part of our practice that is really hard for us to navigate. That when let me see if I have if you want to refine your understanding of anything about the practice, about clinging, about greed, about hatred, ill will, about suffering, you can't cling to words or texts. You have to look deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into your own experience, your own present experience. It's up to you to learn through trial and error which way of conceiving the path is most useful at any particular time in your practice. So I would just offer the possibility that when you notice that, I can't quite do this, at least not the way it's being presented, that is your practice. What's true is that this is my experience right now. Maybe Sharon is full of shit. Maybe Sharon doesn't know anything at all about the practice and she's just projecting some jerky stuff out of her own experience. You have to entertain that possibility. Maybe that's true. So you look into your own experience and you rely on your capacity to deeply know what is wholesome and what is true. And you could inquire, is it wholesome for me to be kind to myself when I can't do it exactly the way it's proposed? Is that wholesome? Look and see. Is that true? Does it work? And then it's a really question of, does it work? But it's sort of like, does it work over a little bit of time? Who is it? Andy Olinsky, he says, we also have to be careful not to be too hard on ourselves. Because the Buddha says it's possible for these fires of suffering to go out, it doesn't mean we should expect it to happen by Tuesday. So can we be patient with ourselves and kind? We need to stop. It's either 7:30 or 8:30, whatever you think is true. And there we are. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So blessings. Really go back to the meditation at the beginning. The Buddha invites us to know our own wisdom, to know our own goodness, and to nourish it. To nourish it. It is true that there are people who don't do that. It doesn't help if we jump in the pool with them. Okay? Blessings.